Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Secrets for an Inspirational Life. How are you all? I hope that you are well. I hope that you are finding a little peace amongst all that is going on in the world. And I hope that you are still looking in the mirror and seeing the beauty of your soul, of your heart, and of you as a being. In these times now, it's very difficult to sometimes remember who you are because there is so much information out there, there is so much noise out there. And we all need a sanctuary. We all need something incredibly peaceful and serene to bring us back to that point within ourselves that reminds us really of why we are here. It's very difficult also to be amongst people that may not always think the same as we do, see life the way that we do. But nevertheless, we must not forget who we are. And in a way, we must close our eyes and our ears to certain things and open the eyes and ears of the heart. Because this is really, I believe, the only way that we can survive in these times is to take ourselves onto a completely different level of existence. And, as the old adage goes, we have to rise above everything that is going on in order to see the vista, the horizon, and the reality. It's not so easy, I know, but we must try with courage and hope. Now, I am absolutely delighted and so happy to welcome back my special guest, who is the beautiful and special Ramona Moore. Now, Ramona has been a guest on the show before, and I have had so many requests to bring her back because she is really rather magical, I have to say. And she is such a wise lady. Now, Ramona is a Reiki master, a therapist, a spiritual coach, a rune specialist, and of course, a soul traveler. Her life has been filled with extraordinary twists and turns, and sometimes very extreme tests that have given her the ability to gain a profound wisdom. And she, I've said this before, she's an absolute delight. And she is an oasis in a very difficult desert that we're all abiding in. And it is her knowledge, really, that people were loving. You, the listeners, were sending me comments and messages about it. And it was really this subtleness and this deep kind of understanding that she has that you loved so much and that I love so much. And really, she is a guide where she is helping others understand the world around them and also the worlds within. So it is really with great pleasure that I welcome back Ramona. Welcome, Ramona Moore.
Thank you, Mimi. It's good to be back.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Yes.
I'm so happy that you're back again. And thank you again for coming back on.
Most welcome. Most welcome. Yeah.
Wonderful. How are you? How are you?
I'm doing great. Just kind of riding the waves of that ocean of love and mercy and just being an observer and trying to come more from soul's perspective rather than human girl Ramona kind of which could be limiting.
Yes.
a limited perspective.
Oh dear. I mean, how have you been in these times now since we last spoke? Because these are, you know, as I said to you, the listeners have really wanted you back again because they feel that you have so much knowledge to impart. And I'm delighted, as I said, to have you here. But the requests were the things that they were saying to me, it's like, but what did she mean about that, and what did she mean, and how did she mean about this, and can you give me some more, you know? And I of course don't have the answers, so I hope that today, well, this evening actually, here in the UK, but I know it's daytime where you are in the States, isn't it?
Yes, yes, 1:30 p.m.
Wow.
Yeah, yep.
Amazing. What an amazing world. So tell me, how have you been?
So this has been such, I don't know what's been happening star wise, or what's been going on planetary wise, as far
Mm,
as retrogrades and things like that. But I feel as though this is such a time of expansion, and I don't know I don't know if it's which planets do what, pretty much, but I just feel like this is such an opportunity as soul for us to
mm,
really grow. um I read this really interesting, Nicholas Berdyaev. He says, man is not a unit in the universe forming a part of an unrational machine, but a living member of an organic hierarchy belonging to a real and living whole. So if we think of ourselves as interconnected with everything in the cosmos, not just this physical universe, but kind of more of like a holographic um, experience, that we're not alone out in this on this orb, this little speck out in the middle of the darkness, but extremely gift gifted just to wake up every day, units of awareness.
mm.
Yeah, and the gift just of having incarnated, having won that race. We it could have, once again, we won that race again. How many times have we won that race?
Yes.
You
Um,
know?
yeah, it's an interesting point because it was something that we have spoken about, and it's past lives. And
Hmm.
that's a fascinating subject. And I want to sort of gain wisdom from you about that because some people believe in it, and I know that some people don't.
Hmm.
Um, but that's really sort of neither here nor there because it will resonate for a lot of people.
Hmm.
And one of the things that keeps coming back with people that I'm speaking about um, is that people are feeling more intensely and more deeply. And one of the things that keeps cropping up is that they are remembering things that they never even imagined. And that is of past lives and living in different places. Now, tell us a little bit about that because this is a really fascinating subject. Because maybe before, I mean, I know there were certain groups of people that would talk about this, but now people are more open. Everything is more open, and people, I think, feel that they can express themselves more than ever before.
Hmm.
Tell us a little bit about what you know, Ramona, about all of this.
Well, as soul, each and every one of us knows the truth
Mm,
as to whether we've, how many lives and who with, and who we keep coming back to, family groups, business groups, nation groups. The repetition of these lifetimes, we know that that's true as soul. Now, a person, say like a person's had a really, maybe the last 3-4 lifetimes have been extreme struggle because of maybe some things that they did to other people in past lives.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always going to be a balance, because for every action there's an opposite action. Um, so we as soul, it's not that we have a soul, we are soul choosing to come back into physical form to release concepts that we thought were true. We find out they're not true, and it's like, okay, I can cross that off my list. That's no longer a part of my reality. Or, wow, I didn't realize that I had, accrued so much good karma in these last 10 lifetimes that this lifetime I'm on easy street. Or I'm very much a much more spiritual person, or much more compassionate, more giving, forgiving, as a result of having those past lives that were kind and compassionate to other people. A Mother Teresa, or like you said, Saint Francis of Assisi. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. So the whole thing, when we get so identified, we have to start learning to disidentify from our human animal consciousness level of being. Because if we cannot let that go, we're going to keep coming back over and over and over until we've achieved a certain level of consciousness that has really learned healthy detachment, that has learned, as of love as the basis for a balanced, graceful life that's, and eventually we won't have to return again in human form, is the only reason that we're here.
Explain that a little bit.
So we were originally not in human form. When we were originally created as soul, we were like just a unit of awareness, kind of like a glass of water without the glass. Very, very, not mind, not physical, not emotions. It's like the beings in the upper spiritual realms. They don't consume and they don't create. They just are. They're just being. There's not confusion and fear and all of these emotion-laden things that we keep subjecting ourselves to because we aren't able to let go of everything we think we are. Until nothing remains. Until nothing remains. It's like I had my teacher told me that God wears a cloak of nothingness. So if we keep attaching ourselves to even each other, our animals, our fears, or these human things that are attachments, if we can't let them go, we're stuck in this endless cycle of, it's called the Wheel of 84. So once we are able to step away completely from mind, and we travel in our astral body at night in our dreams, which is a more real reality than when we're walking around in physical, in daytime activities. Because during the day, we have a lot of filters on. Will this person think this of me? Will I catch that bus? Will I, all of these different things that we're being bombarded with, and turn on the TV, and even music with discordant notes pulls us away from our core, our sweet spot. So if you can visit that place of no mind every day, connect with that absolute silence that is devoid of everything other than you and source, then we can come from a place of more balance and power, because we don't want to be powerless. You don't want to be a namby-pamby. And grace. So power, balance, and grace. So
But that's not so easy, is it?
Well, but see, the thing is, the mental people, the people that operate more, that wear a lot of blue, because blue is mental plane. Each one of these planes of existence, you have physical, astral, causal, mental, etheric, and then beyond that is like bliss plane 1 and 2 and 3 on up to God consciousness. So each one of these places has a predominant color that is, so like people that wear a lot of blue, that's a mental plane. They're thinkers. They're big thinkers, and they are the hardest ones to let go and go into a state of no mind. That's surrender. That's big surrender to them. Sometimes people say, "Oh, I can't meditate. I can't meditate. I don't want to. I don't want anybody else to step in and have control." A lot of people are taught that to fear their own power. We've been taught to follow, and this person is stronger than you. Well, no, the gods at one time were exactly like us, and after a series of dedicated lifetimes, they learned to let go of 99.99999% of who they thought they were to step into their full expression.
Who you think you are and who you are is two very different things.
Absolutely. We're not this carbon-based unit, we're soul. We're soul first. And at a certain point, you can learn how to travel in your soul body.
Yes, I've heard this. I've read a lot about this, and I know that the great masters of time, through time as well, they are able to actually, with their spiritual being, completely envelop their physical being, and then they can be at 40,000 different places at once, because then it becomes irrelevant. Time and space is non-existent, and they can be wherever they want to be. But in a world, Ramona, where it is, especially now, totally about physicality, mind, physicality, people are finding it extremely, extremely difficult to detach from what is going on around in this world of senses, to really find the inner peace and the answers, because there is a lot of fear at the moment, whatever that may be, and from whatever sort of energies that's coming from. But the world is operating on fear. And that's something I know from people that have sort of messaged me about you, is one of the things that they were asking is, how do they go beyond that fear? Because it's huge.
Sure. Right. That the emotional body is it limits us. It stops us. Yeah, I mean, even love, there's divine love, and then there's regular human animal consciousness love. Those are two completely different things. Completely. One, divine love is not conditional. It's nothing human. It's almost unfathomable in human animal consciousness. It's just beyond anything that we could ever imagine. So when we're able to put ourselves in a space where we can drop that physical body, until we're able to do that, we can't imagine what it's like for someone to um, let go. That whole surrender thing. If we can't surrender, it's like if a person has ever floated in the ocean,
Mm.
it's with obviously face side up. Um,
Yes.
but that
Yeah, I
that
mean, that's.
feeling, that yeah,
Mm.
that feeling, okay, if you can access that feeling, so it's not an emotion, it's absence of emotion.
Mm.
If we
It's
keep
being, I suppose. It's being.
right, right. So the way I do it is I sing what some people would call a mantra.
Mm-hmm.
It's a single vowel that it's just the. I'll sing it for a second.
Yes, please do.
So when I sing that, and I sing it for about 3 minutes, and then I listen to the silence after, I sing it for 3 more minutes, and then silence after, and 3 more minutes, and silence after. That, without having any preconceived notions of what's going to happen and try to drop all that. And I've been doing this since the year 2000. So, and every day it changes. Some days are deeper. Some days I hear messages back in that silence. Um, Sometimes I was almost ready to go back into the singing part of it, and then I would start getting a message, and that was never the same. It was always different because every day we grow and we're a different person.
Mm.
So sometimes it would be feeling like I was being covered by like purple syrup. And some days it would be like a flower, a big yellow flower just saying hello
Mm.
in my inner vision. So these messages, don't think of them, try to let go of your mind as far as trying to make sense of them, because
Mm.
sometimes it won't make sense to you until 2 weeks later and you see a big truck going by and it's got that big yellow flower on it, and it's reminding you that your soul, and that you can achieve a level of consciousness that at any moment in your day you can step away. Even if somebody is talking to you and they're just really starting to press your buttons,
Mm.
you can remember, boom, and that big yellow flower comes right into your vision. And you say, I am not going to be controlled by anything here in the physical dimension. This is just this school, but nobody has the spiritual right to tell you what to do.
But it seems as though that is exactly what's happening in the outside world.
Right. Well, there are beings that want to control other people, and they use, presidents and politicians and church leaders and whoever to
Mm.
distract us from that sweet spot, from that spot of absolute being that
Yes. Mm.
nobody can take from us. Nobody can you take it when you go. Any initiations that you get here, any forward motion that you make here, you take with you. You're not going to take your Mercedes Benz, and you're not going to take your dog. Nothing goes with you except what you have learned spiritually.
This is interesting because we spoke about this before. I know about this attachment of when people are now more and more influenced by unseen things, as well as seen, of course. But there does seem to be an energetic field that's really unexplainable. I know that I think we spoke about this last week, but I was going to my osteopath and I was coming back, and the sky usually, I mean, we live in the countryside, but so you can see the sky a lot and the earth, but somehow the two had near enough merged into one, and there wasn't that space.
Mm-hmm.
And although it seemed empty to the eyes of man, it seemed also filled with so much heaviness and so many energies that, in a way, you couldn't really feel comfortable because it was this huge burden.
Right. Well, just being in the physical body's a burden.
Well, yes.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I've been in the ocean before, like way miles and miles out into the ocean on a boat, and I've seen that where the water and the sky are totally blended, and it was such a surreal moment. And you are absolutely right. It's filled with beings from the astral plane. Beings, can come right into the physical, and so no matter where you look or who you're looking at, there are beings that are with us in this from the astral plane that come and visit the physical plane, create havoc, or sometimes they're benevolent, but sometimes they're not. So it just depends on how open your spiritual vision is. So once you start learning to, you have to get used to complete darkness, because that's what's out there. Out there is 99% darkness. So once we start traveling as soul, we need to be very, very familiar with not only the darkness out there, but our own holy darkness. And once a person consumes this, literally consumes this, then they realize that balance of light and dark in themselves, and that it's, most people think of darkness as being something scary or whatever, but once you get your balance as far as your own holy dark energies and your holy light energies, then you can see beings that are right there with you, next to you, or on other people, and then you start learning to protect your own space, your own energy field. You're not going to allow these beings to bombard you and make you weak or make you think what they're thinking. So it's all, everything's out there. Is just, what are we aware of? What are we going to allow in our space? And how much time are we going to, spend in contemplation and really anchoring that sweet spot in us that nobody else is invited to, and that just us and our source, whatever your source that you believe in, is invited to, and that's the only person besides yourself that's there.
I mean, I know we spoke about this, but you said to me that every sort of emotion is producing a vibration. And the intensity of this in the world is something that it's so deep. And you can really feel this, that everyone is so connected on such a level. And I believe that if everyone was to join in raising the vibration of the earth, it would actually turn everything around in the world.
So the thing is, okay, we know that when the butterfly flaps his wings on this side, it can cause a typhoon on the other side.
Yeah.
Of the world. Okay. So yes, we affect by just in the power of the spoken word. Obviously, we know what that can create or destroy. But the thing about the tricky part that we're thinking about when we think about everybody join forces, everybody join hands. Yeah, what is it, the 100th monkey or whatever that is. Yes, but the thing is, our job here is not to heal the earth. Our only job here is to get our own stuff correct. Because if we don't get our own stuff correct and we're being distracted by this over here and everybody join hands, and because if everybody's got entities on them, okay, nobody is in their right being space. If they're being controlled by these astral beings, they're not in their right mind because they haven't realized who they are as soul.
Now, I have to just stop you just for a moment there, Ramona, because I know we've spoken about this before, but very quickly, just as a recap, explain this to the listeners out there who didn't listen to the last episode about these beings. And because obviously we are not the only creatures on this planet, and there are, other worlds and other universes. So explain a little bit about these beings.
So when soul leaves a body behind here in the physical, they can go to different, they can go the astral plane if a person has done anyway. So these beings can come back, and they know it's a spiritual no-no to get in somebody else's energy field and do anything other than, wish them well. And even that they should do from a distance. But so these astral beings, of which there are unfathomable beings that most people wouldn't even leave their house if they realized they were sitting outside, or sitting downtown waiting for them on other people or whatever. So the only way that a person's really going to know that they're there is when they become more refined in their ability to pick up energetic nuances. It's like a great way to start doing this is go and sit next to a tree. Put your back up against a tree, and see if you can feel the energy that's flowing through that tree, up that trunk. Start even just looking at clouds or flowers. Or that's why nature is such a connecting mechanism to reading nuances in energetic fields. When you walk by somebody and you get a strange feeling in the pit of your stomach, like maybe you feel like you've known them before, it's usually a being that has attached itself to that person, that is reaching out to you and saying, wow, can I take her energy? Can I maybe I like her energy more than this other person that I've been on for a week. I'm just going to try to jump on her and see if she can detect me. And if she can't detect me, well, I'm going to use her energy and I'm going to control her thoughts.
And that's a pretty scary thing, because
right. I think these things are available for us to know, but we've been taught, that like only the Catholic priest can do an exorcism. Well, that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
If you you have to learn how to detect them first. And like these people that are labeled schizophrenics, they see those beings. That is not a mental negative. They're able to see these beings. Their spiritual vision is open. So once your spiritual vision is open and it's not blasted open too fast, because these people that are in the mental institutions get blasted open too fast and they don't know how to come back to square, back to center. They're being run so much by the entity that they're totally powerless. So most people are affected by these beings and they don't even know it.
And some people can sense it, of course.
Sure.
As you said, you can walk past somebody and they can feel strange, or you begin to feel strange. And then that, of course, is a sign, a clear sign. And I think our antennae has to be a little bit more sharper in these times, because from the people that I talk to, so many people, Ramona, say to me that they can actually feel things very differently to before. And what do you think that is? Is it that our senses have been heightened?
Absolutely. I think when the projection of fear onto this planet is ramped up, and that stirs the emotions of people, and these beings are feeding off it as energetic food. So at a certain point, you say, I'm not going to feed into this anymore. I'm not buying this anymore. I mean, I've had a person walk right by me that their entity basically just sucked the life out of me. I almost fell to my knees and I had to go sit down and put my head down between my, closer to my knees and come back to center. That's how violent and vile, and they know it's a spiritual no-no and they do it anyway. So, but I would say, learn how to protect yourself. Carry basically an energetic knife in your mind's eye. And once you feel that happen, just basically kill that demon, kill that entity. That's a spiritual no-no to try to take somebody's energy like that.
Yeah. And I know people try and do that as well.
Well, it's usually the entity that's on them. Controlling them, controlling them. It's like, oh, we want Mimi on our side. We want her as part of our spiritual family. Okay. Because if they know you're powerful and you have some powerful beings that are benevolent, you're a part of their spiritual family, it's a big kudos to them to bring you onto their side.
So is the answer
and control you?
But is the answer then that if we raise our energetic level and we protect ourselves. This is the whole point, I think, that we have to, as spiritual beings ourselves, raise something within us. And
it's not so much more of a raising.
What is it?
Basically, okay, if you're nothing, nothing can stick to you. God wears a cloak of nothingness. So that's that whole thing of letting go of everything that you think you are until nothing remains. Once you're able to come from that place of absolute clarity, no attachment to anything, not even being attached to being attached or detached, it's a spiritual freedom that very, very few beings have ever experienced. They think it's raising a consciousness. No, it's about letting go of any human belief systems, period. Whether it's love, whether it's compassion, whether it's apple pie, whether it's sex, whether it's your cat, it doesn't matter. If humans have attachments to anything here in the physical, you're not going home. You are not going home. And when these beings have control of you, you're not able to let go of your human attachments.
So what's the answer then? How does one?
I sing that you every day. In fact, I usually sing it when I'm coming just out of the dreams, out of sleeping, because that's kind of an in-between time where your mind hasn't run through all of the things you need to do in the day and all these human things. You're still operating more in an cloistered or protected. So it's not so much about protect yourself from entities, but also don't feel as though you need protection from whatever. It's a catch-22. The clearer you become, the more you're able to let go of who you think you are until nothing remains, absolutely nothing.
But that is what people fear. It is to be nothing, isn't it?
Sure. They've been taught to fear that.
Yeah.
They've been taught to fear that. They've been taught to fear their holy darkness, which is the balance of the light and darkness, because you're going to need to be friends with your holy darkness to cross the etheric plane, which is a vast. I mean, the person my teacher, he failed the first time he went to jump across the void because it was so deep and so dark, and he hadn't let go of that part of his humanness, of fear of the dark and of the werewolf or whatever was he had been conjuring in his mind. But then the second time when he went to jump across that void, that it's a gigantic charcoal filter that removes the last remaining embers of who we think we are. So you'll go up, we're in the physical, we have the astral realm, which is where the beings come down here and mess with us. Astral, causal, mental, and the etheric plane is the void. So, but the second time he went up to the void with his guide, two guides, he jumped like that, no problem. They didn't even have to ask him to jump. So we have to let go of all of these attachments in order to complete this mission here.
Yes, I have to. Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say that there are malevolent beings, but there are also very good beings out there that are working very hard to help humanity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Or we wouldn't even, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about those, Ramona, because when we look, as I said before we came on air, actually, I'll say to the listeners, we were talking about, to get an equilibrium, to get a balance, because when you look out there, everything seems bad, bad, bad. That's not actually the case. And we need to tilt that balance so it becomes like a spirit level. It needs to be in balance. And we need to know and be educated and to learn about also the good things that exist and that are still there, and that fundamentally, there is good. But no one seems to be talking about that. No one is saying anything about that, really, not in any great way, as much as they are talking about the bad. And this balance has to shift.
Absolutely. So when you experience that first big drop of honey that drops on you because you've achieved a certain level of consciousness in letting go, then you experience that extreme, it's even beyond joy. It's almost an incomprehensible thing. And then you say, I'm so glad I surrendered. So these, yes, there are many, many absolutely amazing beings that are in the upper spiritual realm. They're there. But this physical world is so bombarded by beings that want to keep us as energetic food. It's a challenge to really find that sweet spot in ourselves as soul, that we're just a spark of, we're the drop in the ocean. And obviously that ocean of love and mercy is filled with beings that have done the work. They've done the work. They've gone through the rigors. They've it's not an easy path. It's you have to have courage. You have to have a lot of courage. It's for those beings that are going to let go of their attachments to maybe not accept it. You have to accept your karma in this life with grace. And there are beings that are there to help us do that. The ones that I refer to are ascended masters that have achieved that level of consciousness, and you can call on them in any time. They've done the work. Most of them don't want to really come back to the physical plane because it's very dense here compared to where they are. It's like,
that's a good word, actually.
Dragging around a big, heavy body for them. It's because they're so pure. There are other beings that want to take that energy, and so they're constantly having to deflect and sometimes kill these lower consciousness beings that want to use them for energetic food. So those beings are always here at our, I don't want to say beck and call and disposal or whatever, but absolutely they're there. But you have to do the work in order to clear your stuff enough for them to it's like a friend of mine went to a karate. He went to a karate temple there to learn the philosophy and about karate. And they gave him a rope as to tie his gi. They gave everybody a rope in the class to tie their gis with. And there were some people that said, "Oh, I'm already a black belt." And they threw down the rope. And my friend, he put that rope on and he was glad to have it. And he excelled. The others did not. They were turned away from the class. They were like, "Okay, you can go home now. We have to earn it. We have to be humble. You know, we have to do the work and be willing to let go of preconceived notions." So by the example of these different ascended masters and different people that have done the work, and most of them don't want to come back to the physical plane. I mean, if you graduated astronaut school and you were making flights out to different planets on a daily basis, and they're beautiful and they're amazing, and you have amazing experiences there, would you want to come back and sit in kindergarten with the other kindergarten kids? Those teachers are few and far between.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So once you achieve a certain level, they just don't want to they want to be and just hang out where they are. They've earned it. They've earned
it.
I
totally understand that, and I don't blame them. But I do feel that they are, I mean, the hidden ones, the ones that are, in a way, as you said, ascended beyond what we could ever imagine. But they are there. And I think in this time of extreme loneliness for so many people, there are so many hidden masters. There are so many hidden people. And I know that people will say to me, yes, but where are they now? We need them. But the point is that we can communicate with them, I believe. Well, we have to be in that state of being in order to be able to communicate to them. We have to, as you said earlier, do the work.
Right. And I think that's why I find such solace in doing my spiritual exercises, because that opens you up to be able for them to send you some messages in whatever form they know that you will. And we, as soul, okay, we are these ascended beings. As soul, we've done that work.
Yeah.
But not completely. We haven't crossed the void yet, because we're still clinging to our humanness. These beings have already, they were just like us once. The gods that are in the upper spiritual realms, they were just like us once. No different. So we have the capacity. We're only one step away from, but if you keep thinking that you're any less than your absolute perfection as soul, then we're limiting ourselves still.
Do you feel that there's something, Ramona, that we are doing that we shouldn't be doing right now?
Thinking.
Yes. I mean, yeah.
Thinking. Think. You're not going to think. You're not going to solve the puzzle with the same mind that you created the puzzle with.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to drop mind. So when you're singing that it's beautiful because the energy comes in through you and passes through you. When they sing the Om, what happens is energetically, when you close your mouth, the energy stops, basically at your solar plexus or a little bit lower level. The energy literally stops. It's not a clear transmission through the body.
Mm.
And that sect of belief has their heaven in a place that's far. It has quite a ways to go to achieve God consciousness.
You talk about the chakras. That's a fascinating subject.
Well, they basically are the same colors as the rainbow. They correspond to our energetic bodies that are like an onion that surround each one of our bodies.
Mm.
So your red chakra, your base chakra, is down like at your pelvis. That has to do with your physical life and reality.
Mm.
And then the next one up is orange, which is your emotional body. So many people are run by their emotions, and they can't shut their emotion off. Fear, is the biggest detriment to making good spiritual advancements. So each one of these chakras is a different color and associated with a different energetic body, which also correspond to these levels of. It's almost like what do you call it? You know how foot reflexology on the bottom of your foot is represented by, you touch one part of your foot, you're energetically affecting your kidneys or your lungs or your brain. These associations that we have with our chakras and our energetic bodies are exactly the same. And these different planes of consciousness with beings that, one of the most interesting books I've ever read was called The Tiger's Fang.
The tiger what?
The Tiger's Fang.
Oh, okay.
So it describes a man's experience of going through these different planes of existence in his soul body. So he was not in his human body, not in his physical body when he was doing this soul travel. So he experienced these different levels of being, the music that was there, the color that was there, the atmosphere, the being that was basically in charge of that level. It's by Paul Twitchell.
I'm going to look that up, actually.
Oh, it's well, it's on my Facebook page. Anybody can go to it and read it. I've completed it in its entirety. It took me a long time to enter it. It's entered backwards because I started at chapter 1, and the way it's entered is, but if you scroll to the bottom and, a person can figure out how to read from chapter 1 to the end. But fascinating, just fascinating. He doesn't go into crossing the void hardly at all. His experience is, going to be different than another person's, but it's an amazing, amazing book that for the serious spiritual student, it's a gotta read. It's a gotta read because it explains so much about our journey as soul on the path to God consciousness and to not have to come back here again. So once a person has achieved a certain level of consciousness, they're an observer, they're watching what's going on, and they're keeping their energy field clear of entities. But mostly it's about clearing yourself. It's about keeping perspective and not letting this world take you down, to stay in connection with source, to do your spiritual exercises every day. My teacher does his spiritual exercises every day without fail. He sleeps very, very little. He's he's on a different bar. But I'm learning so much just from his example. You know, it's a heavy responsibility. It's not to be taken lightly. It's huge. Most people don't want to attempt to even start on that path because it's a lot of work. But once you get past a certain point, you're like, okay, I'm a scientist. I know this works and this works and this works. If I do my spiritual exercises, I can every day go to a place, find that place of clarity where I can clear more of my stuff that's not serving me anymore and come from a completely different place. When I watch this hurricane that's being created, we agreed to come back again. That's our karmic burden. We agreed to come back here and experience this stuff. We're not victims.
Yes, that's an interesting viewpoint.
We're not victims. We agreed to come back again because we didn't get it right the last time. It's an opportunity and it's a gift. Because if we didn't have this opportunity to let go of our humanness and come more from soul and then beyond, there'd be no room there'd be nobody at the top. You know, there'd not top, but no divine beings that did the work.
I agree with you. I think it's an absolutely tremendous gift to be here on Earth at this time. And people will say that I'm crazy to say that, but, you know, we are all a little bit crazy in our own way. And it really does help to get through this world. But I do sincerely believe that we are on this brink of a illuminating and hugely magnificent transformation. And we have to get it right this time.
Right. Right. Because who knows? There might not be a next. There might not be, but it's so everything's. I know it's sounds kind of crazy, but the only place there's room for change is now, because yesterday's gone. Can't. Some people believe that you can go to the past and change things, but let's look forward. Let's go forward.
And what would you say to people out there, Ramona, that are caught in the grips of fear right
now? Do your spiritual exercises and be serious about it. Because if you can't visit that sweet spot every day, you're going to lose your tether to yourself. And once that starts happening, not only can we not help ourselves, but we can't help others. You know, guide them, be the example of being compassionate and forgiving. And I mean, no, don't let somebody keep abusing you type thing, like any entity or whatever, or, you know, relative. Sometimes family's not family. We have spiritual families that we belong to, sometimes that aren't our physical families.
Yeah.
And that's who we connect with when we're doing the you. You know,
I'm reading at the moment.
What are you reading?
I have to tell you. You're going to love this. I'm reading about tuning forks.
Oh,
and
yes.
The vibrational healing of this amazing thing that I've discovered, and I love it. And one of the books that I'm reading, I bought about 5 or 6 because I just became totally fascinated after having an experience with it. And one of them is, I'm still reading about it, is how every vertebrae has its own song.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, we are such a universe within ourselves. We have so many untold universes that we're looking to the outside for these answers. And yet everything we need is within us. Every vertebrae is actually singing, has its own vibration,
Right.
speaks to us. If we have a pain, I don't know, in our hip or in our leg or in our arm, it's actually corresponding to that particular vertebrae where it's not functioning and playing its own harmony.
Right. Because each one of the chakras has a note also, not only color, but it has a note. So if there's a vertebrae that's close to that note, like like say if somebody has something going on with their knee, which I don't ask the person before I start the Reiki session. So I'll put the tuning fork either above or below that, because you don't want to put it right on it.
Yeah.
Depending
because
on
that
which
can cause
note.
pain.
Well, pain is movement.
Yeah.
Which sometimes, in order for energy that is stuck, in order for it to move, there can be, it's like when you get adjusted at the chiropractors.
Yeah.
It's going to hurt for a little bit because you've carried it a certain way. It's put back where it's supposed to be. And now you're supposed to develop the muscles, just like spiritual muscles, to hold it in place. And that's what doing the U is. It is like getting an adjustment and remembering who you really are. And hopefully you can retain that feeling by doing more spiritual exercises. It just builds, they build one after another. That singing of the U is huge, but the tuning forks are very cool. It's vibration, energy, obviously, the whole dynamic of this planet is the coming and going, the birth and rebirth, and constant movement of energy. So when you put a tuning fork on the body, it's going to resonate. Your body's either going to resonate with it, or it's going to say, ooh, I have a long way to go until I'm back to where I remember where I'm supposed to be. Healing is about remembering who you really are. When we have imbalances or pain, we've disconnected from source. We've forgotten who we really are as soul. So aging, this whole thing that I was reading about how people relate to this life, even into their hundreds, with a healthy body, and mind and spirit, it's 99.999 up here. It's how you feel spiritually, how you feel emotionally, how you feel physically. It's like a trickle down, as above, so below. So so say like if a person is spiritually really maybe they've had really tough spiritual lives, they could have been put to death in another lifetime, for their spiritual beliefs. Enough time of a person doing that, they're probably going to come in an atheist this life, from being bombarded with so much negative energy about about their spiritual nature. That's why some ways of believing, you've got to question everything. Question everything.
Mm.
It's really interesting. These people that were living into their hundreds, it's all about how they assimilate their cultural things that they're bombarded with. This is growing older is the mind body passing through time and space. Aging is the mind body's response to the cultural limitations it assimilates.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. It's so you decide which messages from our cultural editors, that we should either righteously defy and which ones we will gratefully assimilate in order to live a long life. Now, the essence of healthy defiance, you have to feel worthy of saying no, of defying. I'm not going to follow that way.
Mm. Mm.
So these memories of compassion forms a foundation of resilience. So the more we are able to develop resilience, perseverance, creativity, and flexibility, we're able to ride the waves of this ocean of love and mercy. Sometimes it's challenging. We agreed to come back. Do it again.
We did indeed.
Yeah. It's like perfecting your sourdough bread.
Mm. Mm.
Okay. You don't do it once and say, oh, I'm never going to do that. I'm just going to keep buying it. Or you're going to make it yourself and show yourself that you can change and adjust. You're flexible. It's like, okay, how many times am I going to make it that way and fail? That's what, or are we going to change the way we think about this life and come up with a completely different feeling in the morning when we wake up as a result? Or not having a preconceived notion when I start singing the you.
It's powerful, Ramona. It's powerful. And it is excellent advice because we have to. I really believe this. We have to embrace our spiritual life and start from that and make it a regular thing. In a way, it's like, as you said, with the more you exercise something like a muscle, it gets stronger. And I believe that daily spiritual exercises that really take you out of the world to this place
Right.
of sanctuary and answers
Yep.
is the only way for us to survive and for us to actually be all that we really are.
Thrive. To
I don't see.
thrive.
Yeah.
Absolutely. After a while, it becomes like the was it a Zen saying that's chopping water, chopping wood, carrying
chopping
water.
wood. Yes.
Absolutely. After a while, you're so much in that flow. The more I sing the you, the more I'm in that flow, the more synchronistic things happen. The more you recognize, the more you'll attract people that are about growth. Then that you're on the right. Or when I get a feeling that, oh my gosh, I've done that before. I've been in this place before, and then I know I'm on the right track.
Yeah. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful and so fascinating to talk to you always. There's so many things. I'm going to write a list next time because there's so many things I could ask you. But this is what is really incredibly divine, I think, is that, we can join in this way. We can connect with each other on another level completely. And momentarily, as the old saying goes, you can live a lifetime in a moment. And momentarily, we all are touching each other's lives, you and I, and the people listening. And I think that's an extremely powerful and extremely beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank God we do have this way of communicating that, and eventually we'll all be telepathic and
Yes.
and
I
recognize
believe,
and recognize each other as soul.
Yes.
For sure.
I mean, we do know, of course, but we have to lift the veils a little bit more, I think. And I think we, slowly, and sometimes quickly, depending on the circumstance. But I do believe we have this ability. And as you said, I always think about you when it's one of the things that I remember mostly about you is when you say, you just have to be.
Right.
And that is so powerfully strong.
Exactly. For those that get it. For those that don't think it's just airy fairy, they know as soul, they know. They know.
Of course.
They just sometimes get too scared, or they don't want to do the work, or they're lazy, or they'll catch it in small little increments, and they'll say, oh, I know that's who I really am. And that feels good.
And that feels, in a way, it's total bliss.
Absolutely.
Because you know that wherever you are right now in the world, wherever you are, whoever you're with, is exactly where you're supposed to be.
We agreed. We agreed to do it again.
I know.
With you. I agreed to come and meet you, Mimi.
I know.
We've been together many lifetimes. Many lifetimes. We were both teachers on whichever planet, I don't know which it was, in space and time. We did it. We did it. We just found a way back to each other again to do it again.
Yes, and our souls heard each other because it happens at exactly the right moment when two souls are meant to meet. Everything in the universe, as Paulo Coelho, I mean, I love the book The Alchemist. It's so simple. When he says in the book, you've read it, right?
Yes.
And he said, when something is meant to be and someone is, fulfilling their soul purpose, the whole universe conspires to help them.
If you only knew the implications of the karmic implications of what you just said. It is staggering if somebody were to realize and you do at a certain point, you achieve a certain level of omnipresence to where you can know, feel, be what you just said continuously. That's who you are. That's who we really are as soul. So soul isn't just an individual thing. Soul is a, God, it's hard to explain. I don't know how to put it in human words.
You just have to feel it.
Yep, just have to be it.
Yeah.
Once you be it, once you do that, and you connect into that, and you catch that lifeline, you will be dedicated to it forever.
Yes. Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much, Ramona, as we come to the end, for coming on again. It is fascinating. It is beautiful to hear your words, to share your wisdom. And, I'm really honored that you have come into this lifetime and we have met again.
As I am so much too. May the blessings be.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. And I'm going to ask you again, of course, to share some words of wisdom with the listeners out there in this moment in time, something that's, helped you and helps you daily in life to remain in that state of joy and hopefulness.
I think once you get a taste, it's like the first time you ever tasted your mother's breast milk. You know what I'm saying?
Mm, mm.
That remembrance, that sweet nourishment that can only come from source. Once you hook up with that, I wonder how people get it through life every day without it. I mean, they would live in a total state of fear constantly. It would be hell on earth. You know what I'm saying? So I think once you taste that, once you give it a chance, once you sing the you, and there will be a click to where you will get a message back. This is not going to leave you hanging. Once you get that first nudge, or you see that bright blue star, you're like, okay. I know I was off the path for a while, but now I'm back on, and I see my way to being who I really am, who I really, really was created as in the beginning.
And you will feel it. This is the
Absolutely.
thing.
Absolutely. It's like a feeling in that heart chakra that just expands out and just makes a bubble of, I don't want to say protection, but this bubble around you that you bring with you everywhere you go. And you will attract all sorts of things that maybe that you still need to work on, still peeling the onion.
Yes.
So life is like a spiral. We keep coming back to the same things that we need to go over again until we've totally released them. Till it's no longer a trigger. Till we're just pure nothingness. Because nothing can adhere to nothingness.
Yes, and in that nothingness, there is a vastness of
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why you have to develop your spiritual vision, because once you start traveling out there, you're going to need to be able to see all the beings out there.
And really,
and the ones here.
Yes, and become part of this source, because we are not separate. This is the thing. We are
exactly
in unison. And when we've reached a certain level, we realize that we are actually at one with the source.
There's very few beings that have made that complete journey. That's why reading The Tiger's Fang, I think, is going to just spark people.
I'm going to get it.
It's amazing. It's an amazing.
Yes, I'm going to get it, and I'm going to. I will let you know.
Cool. The first couple chapters are pretty deep. They're thick. They're big meat. But once you can get past those first two, the rest is clear sailing.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but
I
they're on
will
my
get
they're
it
on my
for
side
sure.
pages if you want to go there and read it.
Mhm.
At any point in time, it's there in its completeness. It was interesting. I felt like Paul Twitchell was looking over my shoulder as I was typing it, kind of saying, "Yes, get this word out. Get this word out. This needs to be. People need to know this.
Mm.
People need to
Mm.
remember this. People need to experience this."
And for the people that want to connect with you, Ramona, where can they do that?
So I'm always on Facebook under Ramona Moore.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Grants Pass, Oregon. Yeah, that's the easiest place to find me because I've got my website on there, and my side pages are
Okay.
where the tiger's fang is. I've got 9 side pages that you can go and find the tiger's fang as one of those 9 pages.
And are you happy for people to contact you?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So if there's any sort of questions or
Oh,
anything,
absolutely.
okay, that's
Yeah,
great.
I
That's
love
important to know.
serious spiritual students. Absolutely, absolutely.
Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, thank you again. It's an absolute pleasure to talk to you as always.
Thank you, sweetheart.
And
And
look
I
after
you.
yourself. Oh, and because you're going to come on again at
Well,
some
thank you.
point. I know,
Thank
you
you.
know, you are always, it's an open invitation for you always.
Thank you. I enjoy this very much.
Yes, me too. Oh, well, we'll speak soon, hopefully. And until then, look after yourself and lots of love.
You too, honey. I love
Oh,
you.
okay, love you too. Bye.
Bye-bye, honey.
Bye. Bye. Ramona Moore, what a fascinating lady, and such interesting topics that we can discuss together, which is really quite wonderful when you meet people that have an array of knowledge of so many different things. Thank you so much for joining me. I wish you wonderful moments and lots of love. And until next time, take care.
Thank you for listening to Secrets for an Inspirational Life, brought to you by your host, Mimi Novic. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast and see you in the next episode. For more information about Mimi Novic and her books, music, and inspirational work, take a look at her website, www.miminovic.co.uk.